Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're here on Tuesday, January 20th, 2015. It's 6:04. We're here at City Hall at 116 West Bridge Street, Granbury, Texas. The Granbury City Council regular meeting is now called to order. I'd like to call upon Pastor Bishop Helsley from the Southside Baptist Church to lead us in our invitation, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Gary Couch. All rise, please.
If you would join me in prayer. Father God, we come to you in this time and we just humble ourselves in your presence before your throne. We ask that you would bless this time when we've gathered together, that you would lead and guide us in your will, in your wisdom, that you would bless those here with discernment, that you would guide them as they seek to make decisions, and that those decisions would bless lives, and that it would all give glory to you. Lord, we just ask you to be with us in this time, that you would lead us and guide us and bless us. We thank you, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, in the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
One quick note for everybody out there following the agenda. We're going to move item number 10, which will be the appointment of the boards. We'll move that down, and we'll move 11 and 12 up in that place. At this time, we'll go into the consent agenda. The two items being to consider approving the council meeting minutes of January 6, 2015 of the regular meeting, and also consider approving a request from the Granbury Housing Authority for waiver of payment in lieu of taxes. Now, on this one here, Council, we do this pretty much every year. It depends on the 10%, I think, of the attendance there. So if you want to deliberate on that anyway, we'll move down to the deliberated agenda. If not, we'll leave it on the consent agenda. Council, you've had an opportunity to look at the minutes. Is there any discussion? Any changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Couch. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilperson Myers. Is there any more discussion, Council? Councilperson Parsons, how do you vote? Aye. Councilperson Allen?
Yay.
Councilperson Couch?
Yay.
Councilperson Perkle?
Yay.
Councilperson Myers?
Yay.
Is that nay?
Yay.
Oh, yeah. Those minutes are approved. We will now move into the deliberation agenda. The first one being, consider approving Resolution 1501, declaring expectation to reimburse expenditures with proceeds for future debt for constructing and improving streets within the city, including a acquisition of rights of way thereof, therefore acquiring the land for a police station, constructing, improving equipment for firefighting facilities, constructing, improving, and equipment park and recreation facilities, and paying engineering fees associated with the Downtown Square project. I'd like to call upon Ava Gregory to give us some more information on that, if you would, please.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, City Manager. Yes, thank you. This agenda item discusses the reimbursement resolution for the $2.5 million. We had several bond workshops last year, and we also discussed some general fund projects during our bond budget workshop in July. And these projects were identified to be funded by the proposed bond issue early this year. And at this time, because one of the projects had an early let date in January, that is the Moments in Time Trail project, We wanted to bring forward this reimbursement resolution for your review and approval because any expenses that the city will incur at this point will have to be reimbursed by this future bond issue. The projected approval for you to review the bond issue will be during the second meeting in February, possibly, and with the issuance of the debt in April. We had identified the projects that were discussed previously at the bond workshops and also at the budget retreat. And these included the street improvements and maintenance, land for a police station, fire building behind the current fire station, the skate park, the Moments in Time Trail, and as well as the council had proposed interest in adding some engineering for the square. So I know that at this time we don't have the toll bond issue, projected issue finalized, but it has been recommended by our bond council to bring this resolution forward to you for your approval to be able to get reimbursed for any costs that we are incurring at the projects that were planned to be funded by this by this bond. And at this time, I would like to ask for approval. I also wanted to explain that we are not obligated to issue the debt. We are not obligated to issue the debt in the amount of $2.5 million. It just allows us to issue a debt up to $2.5 million.
Okay. Wayne, are you want to
Well,
add something to do that?
just one thing. If we didn't approve this resolution, we can't use bond funds for prior expenditures unless we have a resolution like this.
Yes.
So those expenditures would have to come out of operating funds unless we do this resolution. And then we can use the bond funds once it's issued and get reimbursement for it.
Councilors, any questions for Ava or Wayne?
Yes, I do.
Councilman Couch.
Just for clarification, so as far as the breakdown on these different expenditures, that's something for another meeting that we'll go through as far as...
Yes, at this point, we had had 2 bond workshops, and we discussed these projects. So I would like to bring forward to you the approval to approve this bond issue during the second meeting of February, because it takes almost 2 months to get the bond issued, and we are looking at late April or early May to get the debt issued. So yes, the approval for you to issue the bond is still coming, and it's projected to be here the second meeting in February. We do have a year to issue the debt, but if we're gonna start incurring expenses for these projects, we would have to ensure the cash flow, available cash flow for the general fund.
Thank you.
Council, any more questions for Ava? Okay, Ava, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution 15-01. I've got a motion by Councilperson Parsons.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Allen. Council, any more discussion? Not. Councilman Allen, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Perkle?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
Councilperson Myers?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons?
Yay.
That is approved. Our next item is to consider approving Resolution 15-03, declaring expectations to reimburse expenditures with proceeds for future debt for acquiring runway protection zone land at the city airport. Ava, I'll call upon you again.
All right, this is very similar to the previous one. It's again a reimbursement resolution. The city of Granbury intends to issue debt for acquiring runway protection zone land at the city's airport in regards to the airport runway project. And this proposed resolution will allow the city to be reimbursed for any expenditures with the proceeds of future debt for the intended use to purchase the runway protection zone. The maximum debt issuance for the project is not limited by this resolution. The resolution only intends to reimburse capital expenditures for the cost of the runway protection zone land. And at this time, I would ask for your approval for this reimbursement resolution as well.
Thank you, Ava. Counselor, are there any questions for Ava?
I have one, Mayor.
Councilman Allen?
Is this coming out of the $4 million bond?
No.
Where's it coming out of?
This resolution is intended to reimburse any future expenditures with a future bond issue.
Okay, the one with the 2.5.
Yeah, what we're doing here
Yeah.
as well, maybe don't, is we're protecting, as you know, we recently wrote a $661,000 check. We have, is it 30 days or 60 days?
We have 60 days.
What we're doing here as well, we're protecting our cash flow so that if we decided that we had to do it something else, we can go to a future bond and reimburse that check we just wrote. It's a big check. So this protects that cash flow for us to be able to put it into a bond later if we decide. We don't have to, okay? But it would protect us on that.
Fair enough.
Council, any more questions for Ava? Thank you, Ava. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 15-03 with the said language.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Couch. Have a second?
Second?
I have a second by Councilman Parsons. Any more discussion, council? Councilman Couch, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Perkle?
Yay.
Councilperson Myers?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons?
Yay.
And Councilman Allen?
Yay.
That resolution is approved. Our next item is consider all matters incident and related to the approval of ordinance 15-07, amending ordinance number 07-250, related to the city of Granbury, Texas, combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation series 2007. The way I understand this is pretty much cleaning up some paperwork and cleaning the house, but Ava, I'll let you talk a little more on that one.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you know, on December 10th, 2014, we had issued the 2014 general obligation refunding bond, and that general obligation refunding bond had refunded a portion of our 2007 issue. And at that time, our bond lawyers were reviewing our old ordinance for the 2007 issue, and upon their review, they were able to identify two small errors that were done back in 2007. And with this mandatory ordinance, they are recommending that we correct these small issues. They are very minuscule, and we will not have to be notifying anyone besides the bond insurer at this time. But one of the errors we're correcting is the yield for the maturity. It was listed at 4.625%, and it should have been, it was listed at 4.7%, and it should have been 4.625. And the other one error was incorrectly identifying the insurer of the bond as Municipal Bond Insurance Association, and it should have been the MBAC Assurance Corporation. So these two small errors are corrected with this mandatory ordinance, and at this time, I would ask for your approval for this ordinance.
Thank you, Ava. Counselor, is there any more questions for Ava on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the ordinance 15-07, amending ordinance number 07-250, relating to the city of Granbury, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation series 2007.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Allen. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Couch. Any more discussion, council? Councilman Perkle, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilperson Myers?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons?
Yay.
Councilman Allen?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
That is approved. You're on a roll there, Ava.
I know.
Item number 6 is equipment financing. We've got 3 items here. We'll take them individually. We'll talk about all of them all at once here. The first one is consider awarding bid number 14-15-02 for the equipment lease purchase financing to the First Financial Bank. And the next one being consider approving the purchase of equipment to be financed. And the last one be adopt the resolution 15-04 and 15-05 awarding the lease purchase agreement to First Financial Bank and approving the financial terms. Ava, you want to talk on that one a little bit for us, please?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. As the mayor has mentioned, this agenda item is threefold. In front of you, we have listed all the equipment that has been identified as being lease purchased for during this fiscal year. And there is, I think, 12 equipment that is listed on this agenda item. And they were approved during our 2014-15 budget process. We had released requests for proposal that were sent to different financial entities, and we had received 3 bid documents that were reviewed by the finance department, and we have identified First Financial Bank as the lowest responsible bidder for this financing project. I also have included in your packet a comparison, a bid tabulation that compares the 3 bids that were submitted to us. But as I said, we had identified First Financial Bank as the lowest and most responsible bidder out of the 3. The financing of the equipment in the amount of $371,200 will be financed for 5 years with a quarterly payments of $21,176 at a fixed interest rate of 1.995% for 9 of the 11 equipment, and 2 of the equipment were identified as heavy machinery, and they are being financed at 2.55%. The fire truck in the amount of $812,000 will be financed for 10 years with a quarterly payments of $23,278 at an interest rate of 2.75%. That transaction was declared as non-bank qualified by the city, and the First Financial Bank will not assess any early payoff penalty, and the city will not be responsible for any legal review or underwriting or document preparation. And therefore, the staff recommends the above listed equipment approval. Staff recommends approval of purchase of the listed equipment by the specified vendors through utilizing state contracts. And we also recommend awarding the financing bid to First Financial Bank. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ava. Counselor, are there any questions for Ava?
Ava,
Councilman Couch.
for some reason I thought that we had already done something on the fire truck.
Because it took the fire truck was approved in the previous year's budget.
For the 13,
So,
14.
yes, but we weren't able to finance it at that time yet because it was over a year ago, and it took a year to get the fire truck ready. And it is almost ready, and at this time, we wanted to bring it forward with the other equipment instead of securing funding a year ago that we did not need until the fire truck was fully equipped and ready for us to take.
All right, thank you.
I have a question, Mayor.
Councilman Allen?
Can you tell us we did this in July, and I don't have the sheet with me that I wrote down, but like Department 25, 30, 41, what departments are those?
Yes. 25 is warehouse, 30 is public works, 41 is police, 43 is street, 49 is building maintenance, 50 is park, 83 is sewer collection.
What was the last one?
And the last one, 17 is airport, and 42 is fire.
The reason that the timing is on this, even though it was done in July, is we had to wait till, I want you to explain that, we had to wait till this year to get past January 1st.
Well, yeah, that is true. Last year, all the debt what we issued was bank qualified, so we had to stay under the $10 million mark. And we identified that it was much more savings for the city to go ahead with the 2014 bond refunding. And we wanted to wait with the lease purchase financing till this year, because we were able to identify larger saving with refunding the 2014 bond issue. This year, however, we are unable to meet the $10 million mark, meaning that we already know that we are going to be issuing more than $10 million. That's the reason the bonds were identified, the financing was identified as non-bank qualified. It is still a tax-exempt lease for the purchasers. It's just not bank qualified.
What's the difference in the two 2015 Chevrolets? One's 30, one's 34.5. It says it's bought from a Ford company, the high one.
Yes. I'm sorry, I did not bring the price sheets with me, but they were attached to the agenda items, and that there must have been some type of specification between the two trucks or utility vehicles that caused one of them to be more expensive, but they have been attached to your packet. But I will find out.
Council, any more questions for Ava? Okay, if not, we'll move to the motions. I will take the first one. I'll entertain a motion to consider awarding bid number 14-15-02 for the equipment lease financing to First Financial Bank.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Couch.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Perkle. Any more discussion, council? Councilperson Myers, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Allen?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
Councilman Perkle?
Yay.
Next one, I'll entertain a motion. That one is approved, I'm sorry. Next one, we'll entertain a motion for approving the purchase of equipment to be financed. Need a motion, council.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Allen.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Couch. Any more discussion on the purchase? Councilman Parsons, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Allen?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
Councilman Perkle?
Yay.
Councilperson Myers?
Yay.
Purchase is approved. The next one, I'll entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 15-04 and 15-05, awarding the lease purchase agreement to First Financial Bank and approving those financial terms.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Councilman Couch. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Perkle. Any more discussion, council? Councilman Allen, how do you?
Yay.
Councilman Perkle?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
Councilperson Myers?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons?
Yay.
That resolution is adopted. Council, our next item is to consider awarding bid number 14-15-03 for administrative services for the Texas Capital Fund Infrastructure Development Program. Contract number 7214262 to Langford Community Management Service Incorporation, LCMS. Ava, I'd like you to bring us up to date on that one, would you please?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. As you know, on December 16th, we had, council had approved an agreement between the city of Granbury and the Texas Department of Agriculture for the Texas Capital Infrastructure Development Program. At this time, we were requested to release an RFP for grant services that were needed in regards for the implementation of the Texas Capital Fund Infrastructure Development Program. We had advertised the bid on December 17th, and we received one bid document. It was from Langford Community Management Services. They were the only one qualified and responsible bidder. We had attached a letter of submission to your packet for your review. The funding for the management services will be provided through the Texas Capital Fund Infrastructure Program in the amount of $35,000. This amount was appropriated for the General Program Administration Services. Langford Community Management Service provided, as I said, with a letter of submission, and that describes that they have worked with communities for the past 30 years and had filled out written applications for funding assistance and administered millions of dollars in grant and loans from state and federal agencies. They will be able to provide us with financial management services, assist us with record keeping, and other services. At this time, staff recommends awarding the bid for administrative services to Langford Community Management Services. Do you have any
Thank you, Ava.
questions for me?
Council, do you have any questions on this item to Ava?
Well, Mayor, I
Councilman
got a
Allen.
question. You said it was the only qualified bid? Did we get other bids that wasn't qualified?
No, we
Just
did
the
not.
only bid.
I had received many phone calls, interest in the RFP, and I had sent the copy of the RFP to anyone who asked about it. But as I understand, there is an extensive requirement necessary to be able to provide grant services as this by the Texas Capital Fund. And Langford has been doing this for over 30 years. So I'm not sure if the others were qualified after they reviewed the RFP.
But they never bid.
No, nobody ever bid,
Thank
just them,
Thank you.
yes.
I think it's important to note, too, that the 35,000 is part of the grant, okay? So when they have 39 employees that are there for 2 payrolls, this 35,000 is paid by the government. It's not a city issue, so just so you know, we have no expectation to have to pay for this out of operating funds.
Council, any more questions for Ava or Wayne? If not, I'll entertain a motion to consider awarding the bid number 14-1503 for administrative services for the Texas Capital Fund Infrastructure Development Program. Contract number 7214262 to the Langford Community Management Service.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Parsons.
Second.
I've got a second by Councilman Allen. Council, any more discussion on this item? If not, Councilman Couch, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Perkle?
Yay.
Councilperson Myers?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons?
Yay.
Councilman Allen?
Yay.
That award is approved. Our next one, I guess I should have read both of these at the same time, but it's consider adopting Resolution 15-06, designating authorized signatories for contractual documents and documents for requesting funds pertaining to the Texas Community Development Block Grant, Texas Capital Fund, Infrastructure Development Program Contract 7214262. Ava, I think you talked about that, but
Thank you. Yes, this is really goes hand in hand with the Capital Fund Infrastructure Development Program. As you know, as I mentioned earlier, it was approved last December, but it is time for us to appoint the representatives who will be able to sign the contractual agreement, and also the signatories who will be able to request reimbursement from the state for expenditures that we incur. And the Texas Community Development Block Grant requires that this authorized signatory form is submitted to them along with a resolution. And this agenda item is twofold, meaning the mayor and the city manager will be authorized to execute contracts between the Texas Department of Agriculture and the city of Granbury for the block, from the Community Development Block Grant Program. And we also will identify the mayor, city manager, city secretary, and the director of finance who will be able to authorize and sign the Texas voucher to request payment from the state for the necessary expenditures. They recommend to have several signatories available, so we would be able to send in these required reimbursement vouchers as needed. And staff recommends the approval of this resolution for the authorized signatories for the block grant program.
Council, any questions for Ava on that one? Say that kind of ties into the number 7 there. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve, considering adopting the resolution 15-06 designating the authorized signatories.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Allen.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Perkle. Any more discussion, council? Councilman Perkle, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilperson Myers?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons?
Yay.
Councilman Allen?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
That is approved. Our next item. Ava, I think you can sit down. Thank you. Our next item is to consider approving amendment number 2 to the existing comprehensive development agreement by and between CTMGT Granbury LLC and the City of Granbury, Texas. The purpose of the proposed amendment number 2 request is to replace the provision conceptual land use plan, Exhibit 2, C.2, with the new conceptual land use plan, Exhibit C.2, as requested by the developer. Council, as you know, this is concerning the Knott's Ranch development out there, and I'm going to call upon Scott Sopchak to give us some more information on that one, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. What the developer is requesting is to basically amend the CDA to replace the previous exhibit conceptual land use plan, which you see on the screen before you, with a new conceptual land use plan. You can see it's a little bit more detailed, especially to the west, where we see a little more detail in the roads and the rural residential development landscape build-out scenarios. Give you a little time to absorb it. Back on the original CDA, if you can, I'm going to give you a little history on, because it's been a while since we actually talked about the Knox Ranch, and for my own benefit in particular, as well as others in the audience, we had approved the comprehensive development agreement, and one of the interesting particulars about the CDA was it promoted where my exhibits are. There we go. It promoted a early development of a lotting study for Meadowwood. And when you read through the comprehensive development agreement, it allowed for the development of approximately 40 residential lots on Meadowwood as phase 1. This particular phase along Meadowwood was incorporated into generally District 1A. District 1A, when you read through the agreement, is by and large the rural area that's supported by septic systems. It is required to be on central water, however. So in reading through the CDA, there was an allowance prior to the city obtaining the comprehensive study which is the more detailed engineering master studies to support the Knox Ranch to allow for these 40 lots to be developed on the front end. And then after those 40 lots were developed, the studies would need to be submitted and completed to the city, accepted by the city, and then subsequent development would take place once the studies were approved. And if you don't mind, you have a handout with you, and I'm going to go through a couple of the more pivotal points of the CDA, if you don't mind. So what I'm reading from is the executed comprehensive development agreement. Of note is section 5.1, and I've highlighted some areas with the exception of phase 1 as shown on the lotting study, which is this. No development shall commence until the comprehensive study is complete and approved. The following page, page 3 and 4 respectively, goes into a little bit of detail on what those comprehensive studies are. In essence, what they are master planning and engineering studies on the impact of the build-out on our drainage system, our transportation network, water and wastewater. And water and wastewater takes it from the developed area all the way to the point of treatment for both water and sanitary sewer systems. Okay. There's been some discussion about utility rates as well. That's itemized on page 11, section 5.5. There's been a couple of phone calls into my office. I know Stewart's entertained a couple of calls as well on just basically how the utility rates work within the executed CDA. Of note is highlighted, the city commits that all landowners and residents within the property will be charged retail water and sewer rates consistent with such rates charged to customers within the corporate limits of the city, with the exception of the development of the 245 lots in District 1A. Again, District 1A on the division plan is that area to the west. Let me get the map going here. There we go. So that area in 1A located to the west and to the south of US 377. It goes on to say, after 40 lots in District 1A have been issued a building permit, all landowners and residents within District 1A, including the initial 40 lots and all other lots within 1A, will be charged a retail water and sewer rate consistent with such rates charged to customers within the corporate limits of the city. So irrespective of those lots, and it was always expected that these 40 lots shown on the lotting study would be developed first and foremost, those 40, that once those 40 building permits were issued for those 40 lots or any other lot within 1A, then basically there would be a 1.0 multiplier. So the DRC met, back to the comprehensive plan itself, or the conceptual land use plan itself, the DRC met, and you have in your staff report the itemized DRC comments. We think we tended to the majority of those. There were some clerical issues. The 3 wells that are discussed in the CDA were missing. They're shown. So everything that was basically a clerical oversight, the developer has republished that on this new concept plan. We have the 3 water wells. There's a note on there saying at such time that both parties mutually agree where those water wells will be located, the dedication will take place. What will help drive that is the master plan for the water study to actually to figure out where those water wells are best located to assist the development as it phases itself out over time. The rec center is on there. We talked about the substation for police, fire. There's a dedication requirement. The dedication requirement for the easements, for the flyover, for the new airport location. All of those things we went through the CDA and made sure they were on this new concept plan that's being presented to you tonight. The The one question that we had is timing, and I know Stuart and myself has worked in earnest with the developer regarding how this fleshes out with respect to the first 40 prior to the comprehensive studies being approved relative to the shifting of the new phase to the west, which is the area located on your new conceptual land use plan. It's approximately 69 lots. In essence, we have a staff report and with 2 proposed conditions. The first of which is no engineering plans or final plat shall be submitted to the city for review or approval until such time the city has approved the comprehensive study. We've worked with the developer. They've shown an interest in actually submitting a preliminary plat, getting conceptual approval on the preliminary plat, but they understand that no detailed engineering plans or final plats could be submitted for development until such time that those comprehensive studies are done and accepted by the city. Correspondence back from the developer as late as today have substantiated that they're comfortable with this particular condition. The other condition is, if approved, the new conceptual land use plan will be used as a guidepost for the submission and review of the comprehensive studies. We're changing one comprehensive study for a new comprehensive study. If there's any change or we're changing one conceptual land use plan for a new one, if there's any impact on that new conceptual land use plan relative to the engineer's review of the comprehensive study, then those adjustments need to be accommodated. So city staff recommends approval of the adoption of the conceptual land use plan with those 2 conditions. I know Stuart's been working with the developer's attorney on fashioning a amendment ordinance to consider those conditions. As a sidebar note, we have our city attorney in the audience tonight, so if you want to get some feedback from our city engineer, if you want to get some feedback from our city engineer on where we stand with a review of the comprehensive studies, he's available for comment as well. Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it
Scott,
back to you.
I know the one before, we had a deadline, and we went right up to the last day on that one. What's the deadline on this one right here, or is there one yet?
So the amendment number 1 had extended the deadline to December 31st, 2014, where we needed to receive complete comprehensive studies. And I could tell you we had received the water, the sewer, and the drainage prior to that date. We received on December 29th the first draft of the traffic study or the transportation study. So in the filing of that, they met the date. We did receive draft complete studies, but they're still in draft form, and they're still being reviewed by our city engineer at this time.
I'm ready for something to happen out there. Council, is there any question for Scott? Councilman Allen?
On the master plan, did you say when it would be ready?
If I may, Councilman Allen, I'd like to defer to our city engineer, and he can give us kind of an update on where he stands with his review, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Hello, Council. I'm Justin Oswald, Friesen Nichols in Fort Worth. We have been reviewing these comprehensive plans pretty much all of calendar 14. We've received multiple revisions to the drainage plan. That is essentially complete, pending any changes related to this comprehensive or conceptual land use plan. The water and sewer have been reviewed once, and comments have been sent back to the developer. This was during the fall of 2014. They've indicated they are planning to respond to that shortly. I would say that there is still significant work to be done on those studies. We are looking at the capacity of the existing water treatment plant and sewer treatment plants, and those do not appear adequate. So we are looking for some direction from the developer's engineers on how to proceed so that this development could be served with water and sewer. The comprehensive traffic plan, as Scott said, was just submitted before the end of the 2014. We have sent a response with comments, and there's still significant work to be done on that. The study did not evaluate what improvements might be necessary to address the traffic impact of Knox Ranch. It looked only at how much traffic would be generated in total. So there's still significant work to be done on traffic, water, and sewer, but they have indicated that those comments are being addressed currently and will be responded to quickly.
If you had an estimate, what would you say? Week, month, year,
I would say multiple months.
multiple months?
Yes.
All right, in the plans you've seen, does this show where the wells are gonna be at?
The wells are only shown on the exhibit that you see. We are asking the engineer to develop a schedule of improvements that would be necessary with different phasing or number of lots, and to include those wells in that schedule.
And that will be deeded to the city?
Yes.
Okay. On the, what they're asking for tonight, kinda like we were about 2 weeks ago, not ready yet, I'm not blaming you, because I know you didn't get this till 29th of December.
And that's, like I said, that's been reviewed. We reviewed that, I believe, within a week and sent that back. So.
Yes, sir. And, I don't know how we can move on this tonight.
I don't think that the approval of this item is tied to whether or not the city engineer has approved the comprehensive study. Rather, what this does, it just approves this new document, this new map that they want to show, shifting phase one from Meadowwood over to the western portion of the property. And I can say this, that throughout the day today, myself and Mr. Martin have worked out the wording for the verbiage of the amendment that I'm comfortable with, that allows them to incorporate this new conceptual land use plan, but also states pretty clearly that no development in phase one outside of the pulling of preliminary plats will proceed until after the study's been approved by the city engineer. So,
In other words, they can do the first 40, but after that,
Well, actually, what they're doing, they're tying in this one here with that first 40. That's why I think it comes to 60, doesn't it, Scott, or something like that, 60 now?
That's
Where they-
correct, Mayor, but even these 69 or whatever it is will be withheld until such
Right.
time Friesen Nichols and the city approves the studies. As it currently stands, they actually have an allowance to develop 40 lots, so they're actually scaling back
Scaling
their
back.
development rights under this proposal until such time that the studies are approved by the city.
I don't know if it's on the agenda or not, but on the paperwork you gave us, you was talking about the water rate. Will we be discussing that tonight?
this particular amendment does not affect the language in 5.5 that deals with the water rate. It only amends 5.1, which is the conceptual land use plan, but also includes the language that whereas they were able to develop the 40 lots immediately, they will no longer be allowed to do that until after this comprehensive study is approved.
So you're saying that went away?
I don't understand the question, sir.
Okay. What rate will it be on the new one if we approve it?
In the in-city rate,
It'd be what?
In-city rate.
the same rate that you charge all of your customers that live in the city limits right
But
now.
the first time we passed it for first 40 houses was 1.5 times on the first 40 houses.
I believe that's correct until the point in time that they develop the final 40, the 40th block.
So why would it be changed tonight?
Yeah, if I may jump in. My understanding is that we're not changing anything in 5.5. So if hypothetically we approve this conceptual land use plan, and somebody jump up if I fall short of my mark here, procedurally, we would approve the conceptual land use plan. The comprehensive studies would need to be approved. They may file a preliminary plat, but that's as far as they could go. The city would approve the comprehensive studies. I would hope the studies would come back to council to educate the council on what the conclusions of the studies are. We ratify those, and then they could file their engineering drawings and their final plats. Now, regarding the utility rates, I still think 5.5 is intact. That would be the first 40 lots would be at a 1.5 rate because it's still within District 1A, if you remember that division plan. So all those 40 lots within Division 1A would still be a 1.5, but after the 40th building permit, then everything falls back to a 1.0 rate. If we don't amend that, I think procedurally that's how it works. Do you agree with me, Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, that's what I agree with, and there's no proposition to amend 5.5 right now.
Okay.
Isn't that what that condition, the second condition kind of rolls into the new conceptual land use plan will need to be used as a guidepost for the submission and reviewing of the comprehensive study for water, sewer, drainage, and all that stuff, right?
What we're seeking to do there is if we're adopting this new conceptual land use plan and we're changing it from the previous, then this new land use plan will be used in his evaluation to make sure the distribution of water and sewer and streets as it relates to infrastructure impact is rolled into his considerations and his reports and his approvals and report back to City Council.
Okay. Stuart, this is still set up the same way where it doesn't come into the city after till 25 years or 50 or 75 when they get off bonds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That part's not changed.
Beg pardon?
That part has not changed.
That's right.
Council, any more questions for Scott or Priest Nichols?
Mayor,
Councilman Couch?
can we hear from the Knox representatives just to kind of give us an update of their projections, marketing, sales, et cetera?
I think we've got at least one out there. Mr. Hackett, do you want to? You got a direct question for him, or just want him to give us a?
No, I just think it'd be beneficial for us to hear what's going on with Knox Ranch. And
Mr. Hackett, are you prepared to do that?
We're prepared to do that. That's why we brought this forward tonight, is to address our desire to move forward with the project as we develop the cost of developing the 40 lots and the requirements of the city standards. It just made no economic sense to spend over $3 million to develop 40 lots. So we were nearing the completion of the studies to submit. So I presented an alternative land use plan to shift our phase 1 to the west. And with that similar budget, we will develop some 330 acres and then allow us to more development friendly to keep all the rest of the land intact. So we don't split the development up in two. We have ag exemptions over there, and we need to keep those in place while we develop this. This will provide a much, what we think, a less disruptive development to the people on Meadowwood. It also gives us the opportunity to develop very different types of properties there, and we think it'll be a much better way to start the project. The purpose of this was simply to move phase 1 to a larger phase 1. It's not to change anything, to slide anything by. We have submitted all the studies. They are going back and forth. We will finalize these studies before we submit the final plat for phase 1, but our group needs some assurance that we can move forward with this larger concept for phase 1, and it certainly will provide more breathtaking properties and water and a more diverse type of property. As we will see, we have some commercial there too, that if something like that comes along. As for marketing, we intend to set up our marketing center at the corner of Knox Road and 377 as soon as we know our final plat is going to be approved. We should get out there. We should submit to you this month the preliminary plat so that everybody can see the more detailed orientation, and we can start talking to builders as to what we're going to have out there, both in amenities and types of streets and roads and how we're going to develop the property. The property, again, will be a very horse-friendly type development with actual trails and open areas, and we'll create as much blue or water that we can. The 69 lots is just how it worked out. We have to have a 2-acre minimum. Some of these lots will be just 2 acres, and some will be nearly 4 and 5 acres. So it'll be a very spacious type project. Nothing that that's been inside the city jurisdiction in its history, and we're applying some really exceptional development standards to make this happen. But we're ready to get started. So obviously, by shifting the phase one to the west and reconfiguring the master plan or the concept plan, that held up our traffic study, and that's why it got submitted so late. But I think our goal is to have everything approved by the city before the filing deadlines in February. Since if you will recall, District 1A, the 800 acres of that western half, is sewer only. It's septic only with centralized sewer. We have submitted a letter to the staff that shows a capacity existing of approximately 200 home sites with the proper booster and sizing currently out there. So the 69 lots plus the commercial presents no problem to service that area for water. And I think that's important to note. Plus, we have 2 entrances to those 69 lots, so it shouldn't create a traffic issue whatsoever.
You did increase the, you've increased the commercial, it looks like, and then also you took away some of the, what I'd call common area. Wasn't there more common areas in the first plan than there are right now? Parks areas, you might say?
I don't think so. I'd have to double check the actual calculation. Some of it was reconfigured. We actually pushed the commercial actually extended south of that major overhead line along 377, and we pushed most of that back to the overhead line. So we reduced the commercial in that area, and I think it's all been commercial on the western end. Now, we probably have some more commercial on the eastern side where there'll be sewer.
Went past it.
I have another presentation if you want to use it.
I don't know what to do.
No, I think we're all right.
Yeah, we probably have some more commercial overall, but that's all on the eastern side of the development along 377 and and the future loop.
Right.
But overall, our residential units don't change. In fact, it's down about 180 residential units. What I'm hearing from our engineers and working with the city engineers is that they're probably going to push up the total, what's called LUEs, living units, due to the commercial, but that's kind of a thing in flow, and we don't know what that number is going to be at the end, but that would have to do with commercial calculations that has not been applied to the new land plan. And other than that, with the approval of this, we expect to get out there soon and start cleaning and grubbing the site and getting it looking like something's getting ready to happen. Of course, we know we can't file plats until all the studies are complete. Our attorney's here. Ryan is here with Scarborough Lane, the managing partner for this project for CTMGT, which is part of Centurion American. So if you have any questions or concerns, they'll be happy to answer those.
I have a question.
Sure.
Councilperson Myers?
This happened before me, so I just was curious as to what kind of commercial is going to be out there. Grocery or?
No. On the western half, we've applied more of a warehousing calculation. On the eastern half, it'd be more retail-oriented, but if you know of some of the properties that are directly across from our frontage, it's more industrial, light industrial, and that's kind of what we see on that western side. We used I think a 10,000 square foot building maximum per acre when I think commercial allows us up to 20,000. But we went at 10,000, so we reduced the building sizes there so there could be more yard space. But we have no clue of what we're going to get asked about. But until you have the approval and the ability to develop it and you can provide them water, no one really wants to come and talk to you.
Right,
But we haven't advertised it either.
right.
We do see some equestrian-type businesses, since we are planning on building an arena for the HOA, and we hope to put a cowboy church out there and things like that to form a new kind of feel for that community out there.
Thank
That's
you.
part of the game plan.
Councilman Allen, I think you've got a question for Mr.
Again, you've done a lot of development here in Hood County,
Yes, sir.
done a good job. And, I guess one thing I'm concerned about is the master plan, when you get it all done. Do you have any idea when that'll happen?
Well, I'll probably hope I'm retired.
You hope you what?
I hope I'm retired by then. You know, it's a 20, 30-year
No,
project.
no, I'm talking about when are you gonna present it to the city?
That is the master plan.
Yeah.
That's everything.
That's the master plan.
So when we get through Freeze Nichols approving that, Yep.
That'll be our guidepost.
then you can go ahead and start anywhere on there you want it to, right?
Well, not until we have the approvals of the city engineers of our studies, but that will become the new guidepost as to what we can do out there. Now, this all is part of a provision that's within our document that allows what's called density transfer. And all that means is, if someone says, we need more of this type of housing, we can build it there, even though it may not say it there, but we have to make sure that it doesn't impact the studies in a negative way. So we would have to remove capacity somewhere else so that it stays inside that guidepost, unless the city and the staff agree that it's a good thing and we want to amend it. But that would also require full engineering review. And we probably get this reviewed, I would suggest, at every final plat.
So if I may jump in.
Sure.
Real quick. Ken's correct that there's, under this provision or this plan, and the previous one, there was a finite amount, $49.90, of residential living unit equivalent, or residential dwellings with a living unit equivalent tied to it, which was over 5,000, I believe. This proposed plan doesn't increase it by any measure. It's still the $49.90. So
That's correct.
Ken's also correct in stating that there is a finite amount as it develops per district. So 1A has a finite amount as a subsection development within it, and he's constrained within that framework on the previous comprehensive development agreement. So on the residential side, we're not seeing any impact. And on the commercial side, if you notice, on the upper west, northwest portion of this, there's a little more commercial, and that's why you see the second bullet point in the condition that, hey, there's a little more commercial here. Let's make sure that the comprehensive studies show that impact when the engineer is assessing his study. So from staff's perspective, we're fine with the no added impact that's being proposed, and there's some land use change, but we're seeing it as kind of a wash, really.
Right. It's kind of a trade-off in
Yeah.
some areas. We got some more, if you remember, all of the western side in this first land use plan that he showed you, showed a half-acre minimum lot. We went to 2-acre minimums. So we lowered the density on the western side significantly, and that either transfers over into a higher multifamily or commercial standard. And by shifting that density over, we balanced it. And in fact, we have a few less lots as it stands, or home units as it stands today. But due to some adjustments through the project, those might be absorbed or it might grow.
Now, I do want to mention one thing. Councilman Allen did pose the question asking about distinguishing this conceptual land use with relative to the comprehensive studies being reviewed by the engineer. So if we approve this tonight, we still need to go through the engineering analysis. I think it would be good to have the engineer, once he's comfortable and has no further comment on the engineering studies, the comprehensive studies that are mentioned here, that he do a report back to the city, because he can get into the detail on what are the impacts of this development, not only on site to our infrastructure, proposed infrastructure, but all the way down to our treatment plants as well, and the council needs to be aware of that as this develops over time. And then once council is presented with that information and hopefully accepts it, then that's the trigger for them to go forward on their engineering and final planning.
I would add one thing, just to point out that what will change about this plan, and we hope this comes sooner rather than later on the city's behalf, is you'll see that large white easement that goes around glide path. We're hoping to see that go away as soon as possible when y'all get the, I guess, the airport all buttoned up, and that allows for the moving of the substation. That always has been a very particular negative on from our side, and we'd love to see that go as soon as possible. So, just as you'd like to see the 3 wells, we'd like to see that overhead easement go away.
I have an additional question.
Councilperson Myers.
Again, I heard you say earlier that there's going to be water areas out
I'm
there.
sorry?
Water?
Yeah, well, we have floodplains and we have drainage areas, and those will all be incorporated into the HOA and managed by the MUD district until
Okay.
the city takes it over. But we hope to create as much blue, as our development president likes to say, as we can, but we are now limited
Right.
by the federal government of what we can do and not do with water that runs off of your property. So I would suggest to you it'll be less than what we want, but we hope to provide some so it'll be more scenic out there. But the government has always got its eye on you, and that's the problem we face today.
I was thinking about you said there would be horses and
Yeah.
equestrian out there,
Well,
and
the hope-
so where are they gonna go drink their water?
Well, they'll have their own water at their owner's property, of course, and if I might stand correct, that if my understanding of the CDA as it stands today, whenever a property owner puts a private well out there for that use, for water and irrigation, the citizen has to pay the 1.5 rate, regardless. We still see the 40 lot and the difference as a bit awkward, but it was something we agreed to at the last minute, so we're willing to live by that agreement. But any homeowner out there, if they put a private well, which they're allowed to do for irrigation and livestock and things like that, they have to pay the 1.5 rate to the city, regardless.
There would be no houses with wells on them then for their own drinking use?
Not for drinking, no. It's potable, all potable water has to come through the city and the MUD district. So they will pay a penalty to do that, but I think they'll have to use it as an offsetting accounting.
Thank you.
That's your understanding, isn't it, Scott?
It's been a while since I've read that provision, but that rings familiar
I
to me.
think that's
Well-
correct. If they put a well in, they have to pay the 1.5 rate. It doesn't really square with conserving water and potable water, but we'll let you elected officials address that.
We don't have any water around here to spare.
Well,
That's the
point.
problem.
You need to save all the potable water you can, and right now we're penalizing people for putting wells in to limit that use. So y'all can look at that on another day, I would hope.
Councilors, any more questions for Mr. Hackett?
I'd just like to ask, how long have we been working on this project?
Too long. But you gotta realize we've suffered a recession.
Yeah, it's been,
And at the time we first wanted to start it, the market really wasn't ready. And as we all know, the off-water market is getting much better in Granbury, and builders are asking for lots. And so we're ready to start providing them. That's somewhat of a rarity, and we all know our waterfront properties are still suffering immensely, and the tax revenue. So hopefully this will help offset a little bit eventually.
Once again, questions for Mr. Hackett? Thank you.
Thank you.
Again. Council, you heard from the developer, the attorneys. Scott, is there any more discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to affirmative to amend the CDA to modify and replace the old conceptual land use plan, Exhibit C.2, with the proposed new conceptual land use plan with the said following conditions. No engineering plans for the final plat shall be submitted to the city for review or approval until such time the city has approved the comprehensive study. And also, if approved, the new conceptual land use plan, Exhibit C2, will need to use as a guidepost for the subdivision and the review of the comprehensive study for water, sewer, drainage, and transportation.
so moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Couch.
Second.
I have a second by Councilperson Myers. Council, is there any more discussion? If not, Councilperson Myers, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons?
Yay.
Councilman Allen?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
Councilman Perkle?
Yay.
That is approved. Like I said, we're gonna jump over 10 here right now. We're gonna move down to 11. Discuss and advise staff regarding a possible amendment to the City Code of Ordinance regarding an appointed seat on the Tourism Advisory Board. I'm gonna call upon Steve Dietrich to discuss this a little bit. Would you please, Steve?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. The City of Granbury Code of Ordinances established and regulates membership and authority of city boards and commissions, including the Tourism Advisory Board. Section 9.03.061 reserves one seat on the Tourism Advisory Board for, quote, a representative of the Lake Granbury Area Economic Development Corporation, unquote. The most recent appointee for that seat was Warren Ketteman, who was serving as the director of the Lake Granbury Area Economic Development Corporation. Since Mr. Ketteman has resigned that position and the Lake Granbury EDC is to be dissolved, staff is requesting that City Council provide direction as to how and whether this seat on the board is to be addressed in City Code. Options include, but are not limited to, eliminate the seat for a representative of the EDC and reduce the Tourism Advisory Board to 9 members, have council appoint the one remaining staff member of the EDC to the board, and only amend the code to eliminate the reference to a specific economic development corporation or organization, and thirdly, assign the seat currently designated for an economic development representative to another community stakeholder group. The direction that council provides will enable staff to bring a recommended ordinance to the February 3rd council meeting for your consideration. So the staff recommendation is for you to provide us with direction regarding development of an ordinance, amending Code of Ordinance Section 9.03, the Tourism Advisory Board.
Steve, Council, any recommendations? Discussion?
Question, Mayor.
Councilman Parsons?
Are there any associations or any entities or any groupings that you think could be added to the board in your third solution or not?
I don't have
You
a
already
specific
you already have hoteliers, do you have HGMA, you've got basically all of the...
Chamber of Commerce. Yes, sir. We have all the major stakeholder groups, I believe.
So you have no recommendation of who we would add, or if any at all?
I do not, no.
Okay, all right. Thank you. No further question, Mayor.
Council, any more questions for
Yep.
Steve? Councilman Couch?
What is the downside if we left that vacant until we come to an understanding what the council does regarding EDC? Is that problematic?
I'd defer to the city attorney on that.
Yeah.
You don't have to appoint anybody to the seat if you don't want to, but what I think the issue is that your ordinance specifically provides for an EDC person, and if there's no EDC, then unless we change the ordinance, then we're gonna have a permanent vacancy on that board. So I guess you couldn't put somebody who's not associated with the EDC in that seat until we amend the ordinance. I think that's kind of the issue. And staff has just seeking council guidance on, do you want to put the current employee of the EDC in that slot? Do you want to change it to be an at-large spot? It's really at your pleasure. The charter says you get to set the boards at your pleasure, so I think you have many options.
Well, I believe that, we will arrive at a consensus that there will be an EDC. But if you think that we need to appoint someone, I have no problem with having Holly step in temporarily to fill that seat.
You could do that if you want to. That's up to you.
But what we're doing is amending the ordinance, though, in order to do, they'll have to come back at a later date to amend the ordinance if they move, say, Holly into that position, right? Because our ordinance right now says the EDC director.
Well, no, I think it just says representative of the Economic Development Corporation, which she is. So she could fill that seat for now, but at some point, if the EDC is dissolved, and I shouldn't say if, I think it's a when the EDC is dissolved at this point, you have the issue then of you'll need to amend the ordinance to either take away the reference to that particular EDC or to address it at that time. This is not an action item per se on your agenda, really more of a discussion, and the staff will come back with whatever ordinance amendment you'd like to see. I think that they're just seeking some guidance on how to best proceed.
And so the ordinance is specific to the Lake Granbury area? Okay.
That is correct, it is, yes, sir.
Mr. Attorney, I have a question. Could we solve that problem tonight by just in our appointments of people to committees, just appointing Holly to that committee and moving on until such time as we decide to?
I believe you
change
could,
that?
yes, sir.
Well, I would suggest then that we add that one line item to our selection of committee members and move forward and restructure the committee at some later date.
Are we not appointing
No,
tab
we're not,
board
we're
members?
not doing tab
Okay,
tonight.
well, then we need to bring back an item next meeting to appoint tab board members. We didn't have that one on the, we have a laundry list of boards.
Yeah, we do.
And
That one is not
I
on there.
overlooked the fact that the tourism board is not
Large
on that.
family laundry list.
Yeah.
We can, if that's how you'd like to proceed, we can bring that back to the next agenda as a simple, probably a consent agenda item if you want to.
I would just remind the council that the expected time frame to dissolve the EDC is the end of March, correct? That's what we talked about. And Holly will not be a part of the EDC, well, the EDC will be gone, so, I mean, so probably it's gonna be in the March time frame that you would be faced with it again, not
If we,
when you do the
we could
decision.
change it at that time. but
Right,
we
you could-
can't.
You can change it at that time. I was just giving you a time frame of when you might have to change it.
Council, any more suggestions, any more recommendations to Mr. Steve?
I have a question.
Councilperson Myers?
I guess I'm a little bit confused on the wording. So if we changed it to the person that's serving on the tab board is a representative for EDC, would that correct the problem?
Yeah, I think the issue is that the ordinance ties specifically to the organization that's about to go away.
Right.
And it does so by using the specific name of that organization. So you could change or you can amend the ordinance. You can't amend it tonight, but if you want to, the staff can bring back an ordinance amendment that does away with a name and then just ties the position to a position in a economic development corporation, not necessarily the Lake Granbury Area Economic Development Corporation.
And
That
way
is
you
certainly
would-
one option.
Thank you.
Well, what if we just change the ordinance to read the Granbury Economic Development Efforts,
You could certainly do that, sir.
and then it leaves it wide open?
Is that what you recommended to him, Councilman Couch?
Yes, I think that would give us
Okay.
all sorts of latitude.
So let's go forward with that recommendation and bring something back to us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. No action taken on that one at this time. The next item will be to consider approving a public improvement agreement, a PIA, by and between the city of Granbury, Texas, and the YMCA of Metropolitan Fort Worth for installation of public water and sewer located along James Road to support the Hood County YMCA development to be located on the proposed lot 1-R-2, Block 2 of the Acton Middle School addition. The total cost of the improvements borne in the developers are estimated at $479,783.20, with an estimated city contribution cost of $3,000 for a drive and a fencing around the pump station. This total project cost being $482,783.20. And council, we also, I think that the GISD board went ahead and dedicated, am I right, Wayne is saying that the lift station has been dedicated to the city by the board of
Yes,
school,
it is.
right?
I believe you have a copy of that.
Right, they have a copy
You
of
have
that.
a copy of the Granbury ISD letter that we were able to get, actually, January 16th.
So with that, I'll call upon Scott Stopcheck to give us some more information on that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. This particular site is located just off James Road. It's to support the proposed YMCA Hood County Rec Center. This is part of a parent lot that's recorded approximately 90 acres out of the Acton Middle School addition. What's being proposed is approximately 10 acres be platted out of this particular site. We'll see a replat in the hopefully very near term, but in working with the developer, what we try to promote is that they front load a PIA in order to get working on the water and sewer on the front end and not worry so much about the plat and the building permit activity, but they get the infrastructure in the ground to support the development. So this is the first step, and that is the PIA to support water and sewer to sustain the development as presented. Here is a close-up of the 10-acre site with the building footprint in place. And again, the PIA is to support the proposed development with water and sewer. What we have is a PIA that proposes approximately 3,100 lineal feet of 8-inch water line and approximately 1,500 lineal foot of 8-inch sewer line. It also ties in horizontally over to an existing pump station. It's pressurized. As a part of the development proposal, we don't have the full extension of sewer along James Road. That's why you see the attached variance request. In order to go forward on the PIA, we need to act on the variance request to the subdivision ordinance to basically give them a waiver to not extend sewer along that length of frontage of James Road for that 10-acre proposed parcel. The staff recommendation on the variance is to approve the variance to section 3.9 and 4.5 of the subdivision ordinance to grant them that variance. Regarding the public improvement agreement, your staff report has 2 conditions, the first of which, as you mentioned, we received, and that is the receiving of the dedication request from GISD. We have a letter dated January 16th. We've received that. That particular condition has been met. Condition number 2 has not, and that is that all required surety be filed and fees paid by either Hood County or YMCA. We've not received the requisite fees or surety at this time. So staff, regarding the PIA, staff recommends conditional approval of executing the PIA with the following terms and conditions. 1, that the required surety shall be filed and fees paid by either Hood County or YMCA. As a sidebar, the county mentioned that they'll be meeting hopefully later in the week to actually vote and act on allocating the budget to file the surety and pay the fees for this PIA. Once that condition's met, then the city can go ahead and execute it without any further action by the city council. The other little nuance here is once we receive the dedication, the city has to formally act on accepting the dedication. So in order to expedite things, what staff is presenting to you is on this particular agenda item, you can also motion that you're accepting the dedication so we don't have to come back to council. Now that you know what all infrastructure is involved and your maintenance responsibilities, and Alva and the city engineer are both aware, they looked at the detailed plans of the maintenance responsibilities borne by the city. So if you're willing to accept the dedication, you can so motion, and we won't have to come back to council for that formal acceptance. I will offer one more sidebar comment, and that's generally when we do accept the dedication, the acceptance actually takes place post-improvement. So, for example, if somebody dedicates a substandard street to us, private street, what they have to do is bring it up to standard. Our crews will go out there and inspect it, making sure that it meets our standard. And then once the letter of acceptance by Public Works and the as-built and the warranty bond have been filed, guaranteeing the improvements, then basically that's when the clock starts for the acceptance, the formal acceptance by the city. But until that time, until they bring it up to our standard, the city does not take it over. And with that, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Council, any questions for Scott? not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the PIA with the said conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Allen. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Allen, I'm going to add the variance. I'm going to include the variance 3.9 and 4.5 on that motion
Yes,
also. You okay with that, Mr. Allen?
3.9 and 4.5?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a motion by Councilman Allen. Do I have a second?
Mayor, before we approve, should we go ahead and add the acceptance of the pump station subject to staff's approval of the upgrades?
We'll have if we get a second, we can add that in the discussion.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Parsons. At this time, any more discussion, or you want to add something to that?
I think Evan's here, isn't he?
Well, I think Mr. Sopcich just told us that it would be advantageous to staff if we went ahead and approved the acceptance of the lift station, understanding that going forward we'll be responsible for maintaining and that lift station and also paying the electricity cost on that going forward. So let's give kudos to the cities for doing that. But if we went ahead and approved it with the stipulation that we not accept that dedication until staff has inspected and approved the upgrades and the maintenance of that facility.
And that's our standard procedure.
Okay.
So you're adding to the motion to go ahead and accept the dedication at this time, or not to accept the dedication?
To moving to add the dedication, to accept the
To
dedication.
accept the dedication, okay, of the lift station.
With the caveat that it's
Right.
predicated on staff's approval.
That's
That
what we
makes
do
sense.
normally anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd
Well,
like
while
to add
we're
that.
discussing, I'm going to have City Manager Wayne McKevin update us on the lift station.
No, not on the lift station, on the second requirement
Second.
for the surety. I talked to Commissioner Tout today, and they're going to present, or he said he would present, to the county commissioners. They were looking for a way to have the least expensive way to put up the surety. A bond's pretty expensive. So what I told him was that I would accept is a surety such that they take the $482,000, they write a check, but they put it into their account, their own account, at, say, First National Bank, or with the bank of their choice, and then have the bank issue a letter of credit against those funds, so that they would still have possession of the money, but we would have the backing of, say, First National Bank, that the only way they would lose the money is if they didn't pay us. And so once the project's complete, they get their money back. Okay, it's more like a deposit, right? So more sort of a escrow.
So if it's in the form of an irrevocable letter of credit held by the bank, the securities, then that's an acceptable form. We
Form of
actually have a
surety.
standard form for that, yes.
And I'm not sure, but it's a much less percentage of cost. And so I was trying to get them the least expensive way to put up a valid security, and I think that's it.
So it'll be in the form of an interlocal deposit, or what?
But
An
here-
irrevocable letter of
Irrevocable
credit.
letter.
in hearing that, then, but that's outside of this motion and outside.
Well, I just know
Yeah, understood.
what the condition was, and where it
It's in-
sort of update you on the progress
Right.
of getting that one
Appreciate
done.
that. Thanks.
And actually, it's not, they wouldn't be putting the 482,000, they'd be putting the 397, the 379, right?
479.
479, I'm
Okay,
sorry, yeah,
479,
479.
Okay.
But they might get a letter from the bank for not even putting up money. It's saving more money.
Well, somehow they're going to have some funds that letter of credit is tied to by the bank, I would think.
Or you personally guarantee it.
Who? Me. Yeah, right.
So what I'm hearing, council, we've got the motion with the second to approve the PIA with the conditions, and also approving of the variance 3.9 and 4.5, and also accepting the dedication as requested. Is that what I'm hearing, right?
Yes.
Councilman Allen, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Perkle? Councilperson Meyer?
Yay.
Councilman Parsons?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
That is approved. Council, at this time, we are going to go into our Granbury Municipal Board's applications. You've got a list of them now. And Carla's put together a really good list for us to go off of. I will point out that she has put the reappointments, the people that were wanting reappointments, in red, and she's put all the other folks there to the side. I think everybody has a tally sheet, and as we go through these, I'll go to each one of them at the time, and then we will vote on them once we get those tallied. Mathematically, you could have a tie every now and then, so she's got additional sheets there. If we do have a tie, she'll let you know who the people are in the tie, and then we will have a vote to fill those slots. I'll walk you through these. So all in favor of Terry Taylor, Robert White, Brian Blevins, and Brian Gaffin on the building standards, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Those will be appointed.
Hey, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
before we do the next one, in the future, I think it'd be helpful to the council if we saw the reappointments, how long they've served. Because, you know, on one hand, I want to reward service. On the other hand, I think we need new people rotated through these boards. So I think it'd be helpful, you know, if someone's been on a board for 10 or 12 years, that we know that. Because there's not any kind of term limits, I don't
Well,
believe.
let me talk a little bit about that, Mr. Couch, because I am grateful that we have so many applicants this time, and that's what we've been trying to do, is get as many applicants as we can out there. This time was one of the first times we've had enough applicants to where we have been able to fill all the boards without possibly doubling up. And that's what we want to also watch what we do. Whenever you see some of the names in here, they have their first choice, second choice. That's what's in parentheses right there. And so we want to watch that to make sure that we don't put another person on another board for dual boards, which I don't think we end up doing. And what I would really like to do, we've talked about this, the next time we might have what I'd call a workshop. And I think other cities do this too, but we'll have a workshop where we'll designate a day, or not a day, but a time when we will have a meeting or such, and get together with all the applicants and get this, and it'll be a public meeting where people can be there. And if there are questions that we want to ask applicants, or we want to discuss things with them, and also discuss things with the council, because as big as this is now, I think it's important that we look at the folks and make sure that we know who we're putting on these boards, because these boards are real important. And so I think going in the future, I would like to see us do a separate workshop on this, and it may take 2 hours, hour, but it would only be the appointment of the boards and stuff. And it would be a public meeting where the applicants be there. We could call upon them to discuss their application, and we could also discuss this among the council people. So, and there again, Mr. Couch, we could probably also utilize the dates and things like that to make sure that we don't have people. I think a lot of these reappointments have been in there some time, but if you look, a lot of the folks that are applying have not, and I would encourage the council to, and you've had an opportunity to look at their applications, to recommend new people on there. And we will definitely keep the old people and even the people that have applied for reappointment as a candidate going forward for future years. With that said, we're going to move down to the cemetery board. The appointments will be David Southern and John Boozer. Okay, at this time, we'll take a motion to accept the applicants for David Southern and John Boozer for the cemetery board.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Perkle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Those board members are accepted. The next one is the Granbury Parks Board, which is a 9-member board. All of them are at large. Here again, we've got Joan Snyder, which is wanting a reappointment. Barbara Boozer, seeking a reappointment. Kathy Cuban, seeking a reappointment. Bev Grove, seeking a reappointment. Jean Kate, seeking a reappointment. And Craig Corrigan, seeking a reappointment. We also have some new applicants here: Aaron Fisher, Jan Waits, James Makins, which is his first choice, Thomas Dickerson, his first choice, Larry McWilliams, his first choice, Amber Ross, the third choice, and Phoenix Vandale. Here again, council, I'm looking for 6 names. Pull out your Granbury Parks Board and give me 6 names. Council, we now have the tally for the Granbury Parks Board. We have Joan Snyder, Barbara Boozer, Kathy Cuban, Bev Groves, Jean Kate, and James Macon. And James Macon was one of our new ones, so if his name shows up on another one, which he only put in for the one, so we've got 6 candidates there, or 6 appointments right there. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the Granbury. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the applicants for the Granbury Parks Board.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Couch. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The Parks Board is approved. Our next board is the Granbury Regional Airport Board. Here again, we've got Charles Rick Huber is seeking reappointment. Rich Chappie, thank you, is seeking reappointment. Paula Holder is seeking reappointment. Jackie Vaughn is seeking reappointment. Mark Zimmerman is seeking reappointment. Terry Strange is seeking reappointment. We also have additional candidates: Tony Moberly, Tony Percacion, James Makins, Stephen Ellis, and Phoenix Vandale. So here we go. We have 6 appointments with 11 candidates. Pull your sheets out and give me 6. In committee, we've got Carrie Young selected, Amber Ross, and Connie Jo Duncan. This time I entertain a motion to accept the candidates for the Historic Preservation Commission.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Allen.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Couch. More discussion, council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Historic Preservation Commission is approved. The next one is Municipal Utility Advisory Board. It's a 5-member board. All must reside in the city limits of Granbury, operate a business within the city, or be the representative and employee of a business on City of Granbury Utilities. Here again, we've got Gary Golston has asked for reappointment. Now, council, I will note that Barbara Boozer has already accepted a appointment earlier, but she is asking for reappointment here. We like to keep it down to one board. Karen Jennings is also leaving, but not asking for reappointment. So that leaves Gary Golston, Barbara Boozer, Greg Corrigan, Stephen Ellis, and Larry McWilliams as candidates. Phoenix did not qualify. So, council, I need 3 appointments. I will note that Steve Ellis is also on P&Z. Okay, council, we've got 3 candidates here. We've got Gary Golston, got Craig Corrigan, and Stephen Ellis are the 3 appointments. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the appointment. Do I have a motion by Councilman? I have a motion by Councilman Parsons.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Allen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Those appointments are accepted. Our next one is the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's an 8-member board. All must be city residents, have resided in the city for at least 12 months prior. All must be registered voters for the city. Members can't be related to the council, CMO, or the department heads. I will say that we just appointed Stephen Ellis, and he is seeking reappointment on this board. Tim Hallman is seeking reappointment. Rita Kay is seeking reappointment. Eddie Hewitt is seeking reappointment. And a new candidate is Tony Hedges. Here again, we're looking for 4 candidates. We have 5 applicants. Give me 4 names, council. Tim Hallman, reappointed. Stephen Ellis, reappointed. Rita Kay, reappointed. And Tony Hedges, appointed. We've got Tim Hallman, Stephen Ellis, Rita Kay, and Tony Hedges. I entertain a motion to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Councilperson Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Parkville. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Those are approved. The next board is the Public TV Channel Advisory Board. It's a 5-member board. Majority of members must be city residents or owners of property inside the city. Council will select the chairman. At this time, we have Jackie Solomon is seeking reappointment. Dixie Lee Hedcock is seeking reappointment. Kevin Myers is seeking reappointment. And Thomas Patterson is seeking reappointment. Judy Gentry is coming off and is not seeking reappointment. We also have Chris Cheney, John Bach, Drew Whitaker, Craig Corrigan, and Phoenix Van Dale. We have 9 applicants. I'm looking for 4 candidates. Council? 5. I'm sorry, 5. Okay, council, our Public TV Channel Advisory Board. We've got Jackie Solomon, Dixie Lee Hedcock, Kevin Meyer, Chris Cheney, and John Bach. The appointments. This time I'll entertain a motion to accept these appointments.
So moved.
I've
Second.
got a motion by Councilman Parsons,
Second.
second by Councilman Allen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Those are approved. At this time, council, I would make a recommendation. We go ahead and make a motion to appoint the chairman. As you know, the last time we had the staff recommend somebody, that was Mr. Jackie Solomon, and he's only been in there for 3 months. I don't have a problem going ahead and selecting him as the chairman again. I don't know that the staff would probably have a problem with that. You want to go ahead and make that nomination, council?
I'll make it, Mayor.
Councilman Allen has made the nomination to reappoint Jackie Solomon as the chairperson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilperson Myers. All in favor of Jackie Solomon being the chairman, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. It is approved. Jackie will be the chairperson. We're about there, council. The next one is the Zoning Board of Adjustments. This is a 7-member board, 5 members at large, and 2 alternate members. All must be residents and voters of the city, can't be related to council, CM, or department head. All 3 positions are for regular voting members. The 2 alternate terms expire in 2016. Here again, we've got 3 openings. Tom Baker has requested reappointment. Ernestine Shugart has suggested reappointment. And Eileen Kate has expressed the reappointment. We also have Craig Corrigan who has applied. Here again, we have 3 positions with 4 applicants. I need 3 candidates. Council, our Zoning Board of Adjustments, we have the 3 reappointments: Tom Baker, Ernestine Shugart, and Eileen Kate. I'll entertain a motion to accept the Zoning Board of Adjustments applicants.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilperson Myers. Do I have a second? Need a second, council?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Allen. More discussion, council? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Those are approved. Thank you for bearing with us, council, and folks out there. It's good that we've got that many people to apply for these boards, so hopefully more people will apply for them. At this time, I will now declare that the Granbury City Council was convened into open session and all members are present. The City Council will now go into closed session pursuant to the provisions of Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in the following section, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, airport condemnation.